dangerous.
For New Year's, we're going back in time, or in my case of content, a step into the future, to visit the decade of the 2010s for a trauma iceberg of the era. So let's not chew on the fat for too long and begin. But before we start, if you like these countercultural look backs, feel free to like and subscribe. I'm almost at my goal of 10k and I appreciate all the help I can get, and it's kind of fitting for a 2010s video to help me get to 10k. Okay, now let's start. Oh, and no, there won't be any jump scares here, I swear. Minecraft enemies are a classic horror that tons of 2010s kids have been spooked by countless times. While visually they aren't the scariest thing ever, in game, these creatures' sounds and pure presence are enough to put you on edge. The two that many typically bring up are of course the Creeper and the Ghast, the latter being the biggest jump scare in the game for me when I played back then. These are far from the only creatures in the game ready to scare you, and the fact that the game is a survival one makes encountering them randomly even more intense, especially at night or in a cave. Yeah, I know, no one is scared of Five Nights at Freddy's anymore, and that's not only thanks to exposure, but also to the direction that the series has gone into in recent years. However, you'd never get away from people talking about how creepy the game was when it first released back in 2014. For those that have been living under a rock, Five Nights at Freddy's is a point-and-click survival horror game that tasks you with surviving 5 nights while working at a demented Chuck E. Cheese ripoff, where the animatronics are ready to jump scare you and attack at any second. I remember the internet's reaction to that initial trailer and how it unlocked that classic animatronic trauma in so many. When this game first hit the scene, that was all you'd ever hear about. Like I said, now it and most jump scare games tend to be common affair. But back then, no one was ready for something like this. In the 2010s, social media would finally cement itself in a daily life, and it felt like everyone had an account somewhere, including those too young to be taking part. Due to this and the rise of rapid internet news constantly flooding these sites, the younger generation gained a new fear in social media news and viral panic events. Constant exposure to different events was new and had a big effect on anyone using social media, even more so kids and teens. When the original Slenderman mythos and following game hit the internet in the 2010s, everyone was suddenly welcomed into the world of internet horror. Slender the game hit the net on June 26, 2012. And is a game where players collect pages while evading the faceless Slenderman, who will jump scare you upon catching you. The game went viral and spawned tons of other Slenderman media and more. Chain text messages were everywhere in the 2010 smartphone era. These were randomly sent messages that claimed if you didn't do X thing and forward it to a certain number of people, something bad would happen to you or someone you care about. Some were framed as ghost threats, while others were vague about one's death or bad luck or loved ones getting hurt. For the most part, most kids and teens always knew these messages weren't real, but they always brought the recipient some kind of unease. I know you're wondering how a Bayformers movie could bring any amount of trauma to anyone. Well, just like the first Transformers movie, easily. Just kill a character that kids have grown to love brutally and without warning. This was the case with Ironhide, who doesn't go out in some blaze of glory. He's just straight up executed, betrayed and shot point blank by Sentinel Prime. The last we see of him is a scene where he's rusting and collapsing, as he realized Sentinel isn't what they thought he was. I can't lie, I'm not crazy for the Bay films, but this scene still makes me a little sad because Ironhide was one of my favorite Autobots as a kid. Along with giving everyone constant access to widespread news, social media also presents more nefarious viral posts. One example that still runs rampant is the posting of death videos. You could be scrolling your feed and suddenly witness some random beheading or worse. This began long before the 2010s on various forums and other social medias, but the growth of such mediums in this new decade and rise in popularity with literally everyone meant more exposure to them. The original Paranormal Activity may have released in 2007, but make no mistake, this horror franchise absolutely ruled the 2010s, with 4 sequels released in the decade, each worse than the last. Paranormal Activity is the quintessential found footage horror film and depicts victims terrorized by spirits captured on home security camera. It thrives on jump scares, constant tension, and audience reaction, all to spread the word. Between the 2012 reports and all the end of the world media dropping that decade, there was a growing trauma about the apocalypse coming. There were films like 2012, tons of zombie media like The Walking Dead, and of course lots of reports that stem from sources such as the Mayan calendar. This was all amplified by the new internet landscape. Social media, YouTube, and conspiracy forums pushed half-understood ideas from the calendar and other reports and turned them into apocalyptic predictions. Speaking of The Walking Dead, the 2010s were a decade where zombies were everywhere. Movies, TV shows, games, YouTube videos. Everyone was obsessed with the idea of a zombie apocalypse, and kids exposed to this had an underlying fear of such a predicament underneath all the hype. I'm not gonna lie, I was one of those kids because I started to get this slow realization that the whole idea of a zombie apocalypse freaked me out like more than normal. And for many, I think it wasn't just the zombies that were the fear, but the fact that they were a gateway to the fear of disease, societal collapse, losing loved ones, and exposure to apocalyptic thinking. The original Omegle, or Omegle, I don't know how you guys say it, was an online chat service that would randomly match users with others for text or video chats that operated from 2009 to 2023. During the 2010s, it was all the rage and everyone had to try it at least once, including kids and teens that were too young to be exposed to what it had in store. Omegle was flooded with groomers, deviants, people yoinking their sploink, doxing, and other things that no one at a young age should see or be exposed to. But back then it felt like it became a rite of passage to the internet. Omegle was shut down in 2023 after a lawsuit against the site alleged that it had become a PDF file playground. This resulted in the owner closing the site, stating, "I thank the plaintiff for opening my eyes to the human cost of Omegle." However, multiple copycat sites have opened up in its absence. PT was a playable trailer or a demo released for what was supposed to be an upcoming Silent Hill game from Hideo Kojima, the man behind Metal Gear Solid and now Death Stranding. Players were trapped in a looping hallway full of scares and interactive hallucinatory feeling events. Nothing about this demo was loud or action-based, resulting in a game that relies on repetition, silence, and the feeling of constant anomalies. It was a disturbing game that captured the attention of everyone, with many stating it was the best horror game in years despite being just a demo. When the full project, Silent Hills, was cancelled by Konami, PT was removed from the PlayStation Store, and prices for consoles that still held the demo jumped on eBay and other online storefronts. Sonic.exe is one of those internet traumas that I just don't understand. This popular creepypasta is based around an evil entity taking the form of Sonic the Hedgehog with black and bloody eyes, who tortures and enslaves others through a cursed Sonic game. EXE has been featured in tons of creepypasta and fan games since its release and somehow retains its popularity to this day. The Russian Sleep Experiment is another massively popular creepypasta released on the Creepypasta Wiki in 2010 by a user named Orange Soda. The story follows a scientist explaining a secret Soviet testing ground where prisoners of war are given gas that prevents them from sleeping for 15 days. This changes the prisoners into both addicts for the gas and zombies. The story is considered one of the best creepypastas out there, and many still get fooled into thinking that it's real. Another popular 2010s creepypasta, this time originating from 4chan, is Herobrine, an urban legend from Minecraft that takes the form of Steve but with white eyes. Can't wait to see him in the second Minecraft movie. Herobrine is an NPC that is said to appear and destroy the player's world, delete their messages, and even talk to them. A part of Herobrine's lore is that he is the ghost of the Minecraft creator, Notch's late brother, as an anonymous post claims that Herobrine was the alias of said brother. When Outlast released in 2013, many saw it as the horror game that raised the bar. It stripped players of real power and threw them into this abandoned psychiatric hospital turned science experiment, and forced them to hide, run, and film what was happening instead of fighting back. The game, taking place behind a handheld night vision camera, partnered with distorted audio, made everything feel more intense and personal than one would like. Of course, instead of playing, many younger viewers watched Outlast through their favorite Let's Player instead and got part of that effect. The first episode of the internet series Don't Hug Me I'm Scared, titled Creativity, released on July 29, 2011 and became the talk of the internet. The episode showcased the premise of the whole show. It introduces viewers to a Sesame Street type of world and characters, and after a bit of innocent singing and lesson learning, takes a dark and sometimes gory turn. Following episodes would expand on this concept, adding hints to expanded lore and ideas, many times through subtle background imagery that viewers would overanalyze with each upload. Golden Freddy is a rare entity in the original Five Nights at Freddy's. He would pop up randomly with no explanation whatsoever. To many kids, he felt like a glitch instead of a character, and in fact, that was part of the rumor behind him. The unpredictability of this Easter egg, along with his visuals and sounds, made him one of the scarier elements in the original FNAF. Yeah, the 2010s were full of creepypastas, so get ready for a few more of these down the iceberg. This is one of those that people thought sounded so real at the time. It had the narrator exploring some shut down Disney resort and pictured it as some dark, demented place full of decaying mascots, empty halls, and a creepy Mickey-like figure to end it off. For many, this was an introduction to creepypastas and horror in general. Toy Story 3 was a kids movie that felt the need to throw in this creepy monkey security guard complete with a whole jump scare, catching a lot of kids and adults, I'm sure, off guard. Club Penguin shutting down in 2017 came as a shock to many that grew up playing it. For a lot of kids, it was the first online world they joined. Thus, its shutdown broke tons of hearts. On the final day, the servers filled with players crowding into the rooms and saying goodbye to one another. The Momo Challenge was an internet urban legend that went viral in 2018 and 19. Allegedly, a creature with a bird-like face that actually was a sculpture made from a Japanese artist would pop up randomly, instructing kids to do dangerous tasks that included hurting themselves and worse, threatening curses and doxing if they didn't. However, this challenge was simply a creepypasta that the mainstream world caught on to, causing a panic from parents and opening their eyes to what their children could be getting into online without supervision. At some point in the 2010s, a lot of kids stumbled across the SCP Foundation without even knowing what it was. This database presented itself as a bunch of classified documents describing monsters, locations, and objects as if it was all real. Like many creepypasta, it didn't rely on jump scares but a fear that came from writing that made it all feel realistic. r-no-sleep is a huge Reddit community where users submit their own horror stories that are popular for attempting to be realistic, even though most are as realistic as the average Mr. Nightmare true horror story. The rule for this subreddit is that all stories must be written in first person as if they're true experiences. Oh, and due to that, the main character can never die. Since its launch and further growth in popularity, r/no-sleep has been a content farm for podcasters, YouTubers, and TikTokers everywhere. At some point after its 2009 release, The Human Centipede became a movie everyone knew about without even seeing it. It was framed as the most disturbing film ever made, and just hearing the premise of humans being stitched together into a centipede was enough to make it stick into their heads. I guess sticking to their heads was a bad choice of words here considering the movie that we're talking about. Elsagate was a 2017 controversy that involved mass-produced videos that used kids' characters like Frozen's Elsa and Spider-Man to get young viewers sucked into videos with adult themes featuring disturbing, violent, and suggestive content. These videos snuck around YouTube's moderation systems and would make crazy money, garnering millions of views through exploiting YouTube's algorithms. The controversy would result in advertisers boycotting the platform, and thus, YouTube would get stricter guidelines. There's a song present in old 2012 Roblox horror games such as Bloody Mary, Hospital Nightmare, and others that immediately hits old players with scary nostalgia. The Pengu parody of The Thing by Lee Hardcastle is another example of the stop-motion master terrorizing young YouTube viewers by destroying their childhoods with amazing animation. This short is a homage to John Carpenter's The Thing, with characters from Pengu dealing with the shape-shifting aliens slaughtering and morphing into them. Little Baby's Ice Cream was an ice cream company known for making weird commercials. In 2012, it went viral for commercials featuring a person made of ice cream eating himself, accompanied by some very unsettling narration, alongside a second commercial with him in a loop eating himself from a cone. Here's a clip so you can hear a bit of that narration.
I eat little baby's ice cream. It keeps me young. It keeps me light on my feet. I spring from activity to activity. I love my job. I love my life.
NES Godzilla is another creepypasta that was framed as a personal story from a player that was assaulted by a haunted video game. This time a copy of, what else, the NES Godzilla game. Throughout the playthrough, the game morphs from its original state to a version full of OC monsters, including its self-aware main villain Red, who has gained fame in the larger Godzilla fandom. Oh, and we can't forget Solomon, still the best, 1973 baby. At some point in the 2010s, images of empty halls, abandoned malls, and fluorescent lit rooms started circulating online under the term liminal spaces. These were places meant to be temporary or full of people shown completely empty and frozen in time. Now, these pictures in themselves aren't scary at all, but they feel wrong in a way that's hard to explain. Their familiarity and nostalgic ties add a hint of unease. Liminal spaces tap into this quiet, existential kind of anxiety. While many correlated more with its current gen popularity, like liminal spaces, analog horror actually became a thing in the late 2010s. These horrors, disguised as emergency broadcasts, old VHS tapes, TV warnings, instructional videos, and radio shows, appeared in the form of series like Marble Hornets, Local 58, Archive 81, and more. A big difference from then and now is how the content back then was less about the uncanny face jump scares and more so the unsettling feeling the realistic vibes and lower quality retro visuals presented. Another subreddit that has made its way into online horror is r/Let's Not Meet, a Reddit community where people share allegedly true stories about creepy encounters with strangers. Many of these tales feature stalkers, break-ins, abductions, and more very plausible situations. While these days most of the stories are about being crept on or harassment, back in those days it was full of things like camping encounters, finding corpses, and run-ins with more deranged characters. Back in 2011, from April 17th through April 19th, 77 million PlayStation accounts were compromised and resulted in Sony deactivating the PlayStation Network for 24 days. While credit card data was safe and encrypted, Sony admitted that other user info wasn't, opening another conversation on internet vulnerability of personally identifiable information. In 2012, during the era of zombie hype, there was a Miami case of a man named Rudy Eugene who attacked a homeless man named Ronald Papo. During the attack, Eugene would bite off most of Papo's face. Police shot at the attacker, but he would continue his assault through the pain until the police ended his life, resulting in the world dubbing him a zombie. Due to media speculation, the attack was incorrectly attributed to the drug bath salts, leading many that were too young to understand or too lazy to research to begin thinking that bath salts would make people into zombies. This was only pushed back further when toxicology reports found no human flesh in Eugene's stomach, and the only drug found in his system was cannabis. In the 2010s, Raka Raka would blow up on YouTube with their chaotic and violent skits. The most popular series of these featuring a psychotic Ronald McDonald massacring various people in sometimes creative but always brutal ways. While these were played for comedy, I don't think I need to explain why skits of a killer clown that are easily accessible on the most popular video platform of all time were traumatic for kids of the era. Ebola ties back into that social media news entry from earlier tiers and is a perfect example of the inescapable news fear and end of the world panic the decade was full of. This era would see the Ebola outbreak as one of the first global health scares to fully unfold on social media, with news outlets constantly running alarming headlines, graphic imagery, and worst case scenarios, while social media platforms spread the fear faster than the context. Kids and teens would end up seeing it as some deadly disease that was suddenly everywhere, without even understanding what it was or how it spread. Normal corn, yeah, I'm not gonna say the word, you can sue me. For Normal People is another one of those Mount Rushmore creepypastas and is the first I ever heard. It's the account of a random internet user that reports on a strange website he's alerted to through a random chain email that reads, "Hi there, found this site, it's very nice, thought you might like. Normal corn for normalpeople.com. Pass it on, for the good of mankind." The content on said site, however, is revealed to be anything but what you'd expect from a site with that name, featuring AVI file videos that range from boring to horrific. At its core, this story is another cautionary tale about the dangers of the dark corners of the internet. In October 2010, a Snickers commercial featuring two kids stacked up in an adult women disguise would air and freak out kids, teens, and adults alike. There's nothing really to explain here, just look at what we're talking about. Marble Hornets is a YouTube found footage series based on the Slenderman mythos. It follows a film student solving the mystery of a student film called Marble Hornets, which was abandoned by its director post an encounter with the Slenderman, who was then called the Operator. The series began in 2009 and ran into the 2010s, carrying a realistic found footage style with it, making it an early foray into internet analog and ARG horror. In 2011, Marvel would publish the Elseworlds tale, Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe. In this title, Deadpool would brutally massacre all the beloved characters in the Marvel Universe in the most BS ways possible. Mind you, this was dead center of the character's early hype train, so this was Marvel capitalizing on it. This is another one that needs no real explanation. The character just kills a bunch of characters that everyone knows and loves in crazy ways. I'm not sure what's more traumatic, that or its place in current power scaling arguments. The Blue Whale Challenge was yet another basically evil challenge that spread around the internet. This challenge was described as an online game targeting youth that pushed them towards self-harm through a series of escalating tasks. While confirmed cases were rare and many details were exaggerated, the fear surrounding it spread far faster than the facts. In the early 2010s, Ask.fm became one of the first social media platforms where anonymity— that sounded like freaking Nemo. Anonymity was built directly into the experience. People could ask questions without revealing who they were, and for a lot of kids and teens, that quickly turned the site into a place where harassment, insults, rumors, and cruel comments would show up without warning, often mixed in with normal questions. The bullying became so rampant that it became tied to a life-ending case of a 14-year-old in 2013, and in 2014, the new owners for the site promised to either crack down on it or completely shut down the site. Talking Angela is basically the female version of the Talking Tom app, and it was part of many controversies in the 2010s. For one, the chat system could allow Angela to say random swear words and reply to freaky questions with a quote, "Do you want to talk about sex?" However, there were two hoaxes that the app got wrapped up in. One was a rumor that you could see Angela spying on users through her eyes, which could allegedly be hooked up to a different camera. The second was that Angela allegedly encouraged minors to share info with PDF files. Some versions of this rumor take it to the next level, stating that the game is ran by a P-ring. This all went viral due to social media, and the spy hoax only added fire to its flame. Funny enough, the fear raised by this made the game a top 10 free iPhone app game in 2015. Super Mario Logan, or SML, is a long-running YouTube web series that used Mario plushies and puppets to make an adult-oriented sitcom for kids. Yes, I know what I said. On May 10th, 2017, the series creator, Logan 30acre, would drop a highly anticipated episode called The Secret Door, in which he would finally unveil the secret of a, secret door in Mario's new basement. The secret is a room full of ripped up and dismembered puppet corpses complete with blood and gore. He, his wife Rosalina, and their adoptive son Jeffy are held hostage by the surprise perpetrator Does Bad Things guy, who does until his twin Brooklyn T guy shows up and shoots him down. It's said by many to be the most horrific and out of place episode in the web series, which is saying a lot. In 2016, reports of creepy clowns appearing in public spaces started spreading online, and almost overnight, it turned into a nationwide panic. Sightings were posted on every social media ever and shared all over the news. Clowns standing in the woods, near schools luring out kids, on street corners at night. Most of the stories were unverified or outright fake, but that didn't stop them from spreading stupidly fast. I remember me and my sister coming home every day wanting to see videos of the latest sighting, real or fake. It felt like we were living in a real life horror movie, and we were hoping we weren't going to be the next kids to run into one of these clowns. In 2014, a hacking conglomerate called Lizard Squad would hack Xbox and PlayStation on Christmas, leaving thousands of kids with useless Christmas gifts. If you were a kid in 2013, the trailer for the Evil Dead reboot, remake, sequel was the bane of your existence. No matter what you watched, there was a chance you'd be jump scared by the girl in the cellar telling you not to skip the ad. Warning, I'm about to play it here, so don't get scared, okay? Alright, here it is.
You little brat, don't skip it, don't skip it, don't skip it, don't skip it.
If you still got scared, don't try to blame me. You just might still have a little bit of trauma from the voice alone. I remember the first time I was hit with this ad and I was scrambling for the skip button, and for the rest of the year I was on high alert. Yeah, another SML video, 2016's The Gun. In this episode, Bowser Jr. finds a gun and plays with it. Not only does he mistakenly shoot and end his friend, but due to it being used in a massacre being looked into by the police, with he and another character, Chef Pee-Pee, touching it, they chop their own hands off to not have the fingerprints traced back to them. Well, Pee-Pee had his chopped off by force. Anyways, this is another gory episode of a web show allegedly for adults but obviously aimed at kids. Promise Reprise is an incredibly popular track from Silent Hill 2, but that's not why it's here. In the 2010s, the song was a mainstay for creepypasta videos all over YouTube, making it a traumatic earworm for spooked listeners. This UK-based ad features two uncanny characters dancing and freaked kids out. Just look at these two. Imagine being the kid that couldn't escape this because you just wanted to watch TV. One of those uncanny animations that stick in your head if you're a kid that's never seen anything like it. And it really reminds me of that scary Nickelodeon dancing baby that would play on Nicktoons back then. This is a short horror film that originally released in 2016 by Adult Swim and quickly garnered attention on the internet. It presents itself as found security footage inside a normal suburban environment across multiple episodes. In each case, at first, nothing seems wrong, until small, unsettling details start piling up. Characters behave strangely, time feels broken, and something clearly off is happening while no one fully acknowledges it. The most well-known of these features a girl face flat on the floor with her parents yelling at her, till she begins phasing through the floor. In the end, it seems the entire party joins her. From 2005 to early 2010, Adult Swim would sign off in the morning using a surreal sketch of a smiling sun with scary sounds that featured the message, "The dawn is your enemy." The message was designed to scare away kids from their early programming, and yes, it worked. While it only lasted 1 month in the 2010s, I felt that this was just a necessary addition for this iceberg. Me 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 is a video that kids and teens had no business watching, but it went so viral that we all watched it anyway. It began as a hyper-stylized anime music video featuring a bunch of cool, sexy visuals. However, it would shift into horror as it would begin resembling a mental breakdown. It was obvious the video was a critique on internet addiction, isolation, and escapism, aimed at a generation of kids being raised by the web. Fun fact, you can't watch the actual video on YouTube anymore, which is why I'm only showing images here. The Nun jump scare ad showed up on YouTube in 2016 and was very much like the Evil Dead one, but even more messed up. The ad starts by showing a volume button going down, tricking the user into thinking it's an Apple ad. Then suddenly the Nun pops up and it screams super loud. Social media complaints would get to YouTube, and after stating that it was against their policy, the ads would be pulled due to shocking content. It's now become partially lost media as the volume version is just one of many in this collection of Nun jump scare ads, designed to catch viewers off guard. BG is exactly the website you think it is, a shock site that featured violent news, photos, and videos along with the leaked CIA, FBI, and government documents. It will be shut down in 2020 with its owner Mark Merrick stating in 2017, no company with a reasonable budget would want to advertise on a website that exposes police brutality, government abuse of citizens, war profiteering, and similar anti-people activities. Mario Plus Forever is an often forgotten Mario Plus series that began as innocently as one could. There's a farting problem in the Mushroom Kingdom and Mario and Luigi have to stop it. Soon the farts begin making those affected into zombies. So yes, gore and violence ensue. Along with this, there is a bit of horrific imagery, like an unmasked Shy Guy jump scare, on-screen deaths and blood. I remember me and my little brother following this series, and between the gore and existential god introduction ending, we fell out of it fast. Now it just feels like a fever dream. Die Fantasy is one of those YouTube videos that terrorized the curious generation. This music video begins with teenagers taking a night swim before a pair of love interests realize that their friends are being taken over by worm aliens. The male of the duo is quickly killed and the girl swims away into a portal, coming face to face with a giant otherworldly creature before her head explodes. It's gory, shocking, and none of us were ready for it. I don't know how to even say this. WPKEPKW. This is what many describe as an extremely cursed video of a blurred face that many claim is Rick Astley, partnered with distorted sounds until it goes black and the sounds get louder. Back in the day, I remember many being freaked out by it, but just as many were getting annoyed at internet horror chasing what many called the next Slender. Ghostscape 1 and 2 are flash horror games that spread across the internet in the early 2010s. You explore a house or cabin and capture images of a supernatural phenomena while encountering a lot of spookiness hidden behind the mundane. The game wasn't really scary due to jump scares or anything, it was just the unsettling, creepy environment and tone along with the appearances of the ghosts of the two games, setting young players off. Sad Satan is a 2015 horror game allegedly created by a dark web user that goes by the name ZK. Throughout the black and white game, the player explores dark halls in first person. During this, the gameplay is interrupted by constant images flashing at them. The images tend to reference child abuse as it ties to the theme of the game, with many featuring those indicted in Operation U-Tree, a large-scale British operation against such crimes. Other images involve convicted criminals accused of murder, cannibals, and necro. There are also political images shown featuring various politicians. All the while, player ears are assaulted by looped audio from interviews with various murderers and other distorted audio. There is no end of the game, and with no defense or healing, the player eventually meets their end. Thanks for joining me for this iceberg, and sorry for leaving it off on such a dark note, but it's an iceberg. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe, and I will see you later. Please have a good one.